Okay. So what I was talking about to all the user is, if you see this code, that is the craziest learning, UPI requester, UPI router, UPI result handler. These are core 3 layers. Our Paytm implementation is there. How do we implement this in a real world use cases? So that I have implemented here, guys, to all the smiling coders. So to see that code, I have done here, you can see there, I have implemented the concept of the same thing in the UPI systems. So how did I implement that for all the basic developer understanding? So if you see, this core understanding is that UPI requester, what that does is, any user can do a payment. So now what I'll do is, you can see here, for example, I'll use curl, I'll use this command in my system, local host 3000. I'll do a UPI payment, that is user ID is Venkatesh. I'll do an amount is 200 rupees, and the receiver is some person. I mean, the user ID receiver bank is HDFC. Okay. So if I do this, hit this API, what will happen is, I'll basically ensure this is running first. So first I'll go and run this guy. Go to the terminal first. Okay, so you can, I'm inside this terminal, and the entry point of this program is main actually, which is in Go. So I have to run this function. So what I can do is, I'll run go run main.go. So I'll do this. So once I do this, I'm running an UPI requester listening, and on port number is 3000, and UPI router is started. Okay. Now I'm getting a Kafka reader message. That's okay. That is it. Don't worry. Now what happened is, I am actually, as I told you here, this example, if anyone does a transaction, it comes to UPI requester. So what will UPI requester do? UPI requester will take that entry and write into Kafka. And what will UPI router will do? Read that data from the Kafka. Okay. So for example, I will try to do a curl. I'll do a UPI. Now in this case, UPI requester means what? I am hitting one API. That is, this is an API. Okay. I'll try to hit it. So when I hit this API, it will say transaction processed. Means I'm hitting an API. So when I hit this API, the UPI requester will take that details and write into Kafka. Then there is a UPI router. So if you see here, actually I'm running this here, a router only. It is trying to read the data from the Kafka, but I'm getting some error here, Kafka reading error. Okay. But we'll see that why that was coming. Previously it is working. We can see that. Okay. So here the UPI router will read that from the Kafka and send it to the PSP. So I have done some implementation. If you want, you can see here. So as I see, you can see here, if you do this transaction, what happens? So it will come to first here, router.start router. It will go to this code, that is this router. In this router, you can see this is a router. So in this code, whatever I've done, I'll show you, demonstrated. I have created a Kafka here, Kafka broker with a local host, this port number, and topic of the Kafka topic is UPI transaction, and group ID I have given. Okay. Then here, what will Kafka do is try to read that message. If any service is sending, it will read that. Router job is what? As I explained here, the router job is to read from the Kafka. So I am doing this concept. I am reading the message. Okay. If I read the message, I'll try to process it to, I told you now, I have to process it to route to best PSP. That is my logic I have implemented. That is a PSP guy. So the PSP guy can be like another service, or I'm routing it to external. It's not another service. I route it to external third-party vendor. You can say that. So then I route it to this PSP, and he says I'm sending it to something, transaction successful or failure. That I implemented here. So then coming to this requester here, in the requester you can see here there is an API which I was hitting here. You can see this this curl -x, this API. If I hit, it will come to this API, that is UPI/pay. This is the one I've passed in the URL. UPI localhost 3000 UPI/pay. It will come here. So inside this, what happens? It will do take the input. What is the input I am passing is, I am passing the user ID, amount, and receiver. It will take all this information. That all information will copy to the body parser, that is request. So it will go to the UPI request. This is the structure, which is taking what? from here it's taking what? User ID, amount, and receiver. So all these three are taken into this requester. Then it will write this message into Kafka. So you can see this, I'm writing a Kafka writer and I'm doing a Kafka message here. Okay. And I'm doing a Kafka message which I can directly send here. Kafka writer.kafka message. That is what I'm doing here. Okay. And then it will give a response of the API saying that transaction is queued. That's why you're getting here transaction is queued. And this is a basic, simple understanding you can do with a simple understanding of a UPI, how the UPI transaction happens. In fact, in my code, I have done a common thing called what is the input I'll get. Basically, what a basic transaction happens, user ID, amount, and receiver. And then there's a main which has a Go routine, which we want to implement that as a Go routine, which will always run. And then here I implemented something called bank specific thing that is send to mock function. So this I can implement this, extend this code. I didn't do much implementation. This is basically to send an API part. Router guy is the one who runs as a router part. So I just implemented this to demonstrate a basic level here, guys. So I hope all of you understood this smiling code. So you can do much bigger aspects like this. And when you start implementing, I would implement next time that every concept, not only this, I can show you, demonstrate you how to work with, how to write a DB layer, persistent rule result to DB also we can demonstrate. That all I'll demonstrate, I'll share you that code repositories. Okay. So that is how the smile should continue. Okay. So now the smile continues to all of you. So we are going to little bit more ahead. Still a lot of internals are there to discuss. Okay. So yeah, so smile continues, guys. So let's go ahead and understand. So this is a core layer of the UPI routing system. Yes.
Venki, question.
Yeah.
Venkatesh. Yeah, if you go back to the previous slide.
Yeah.
So each one is a service here, right? UPI requester is one microservice, router is one service, and result handler is one service. So if when a request is processed, when it tries to once the request is sent to the PSP, then UPI router job is done, right?
Yes, request is send it, UPI, no, request job is done. It will send it to UPI router, its requester job is done. Yes.
So does it also inform that to UPI result handler that you can expect some response or it's a event driven?
Event driven. UPI result handler is event driven. UPI result handler will wait from the UPI router. Because in fact, when I told you here in the starting itself, here you can see the UPI result handler will handle the final outcome. That will wait for the response of UPI router. So this all are async only. Even it is asyncly waiting. It will check the status, success, failure, anything it will take.
Okay, basically UPI result handler will handle the event and it will process it.
Process it to the DB. Finally, what is the transaction?
So the data flow here will be the full data, whatever you have shown the message.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. So that is how we are going to work, guys, now. So processing is that way. So now coming back to the next level of understanding. So
Benki, one more question. Like once result handler has returned it to the DB, then result handler will respond to the Kafka only, right? From the backside, it will publish.
Yes. Okay. Yes. Obviously, it will receive it from the Kafka only and then push it to DB only.
Yeah, then the response will be to Kafka once again.
Yes.
Okay.
So that means the internal communication between the microservices and the external communication out of the system is taken care by Kafka.
Yes. External communication is there. Yes.
No, even that is handled by Kafka.
Yes. No. External. No. If you see in this case, only whatever you are doing external is how. For example, you are interacting. In the internal communication between request and router is Kafka. Okay. External communication is what? You are hitting an API.
Yes.
You are hitting an API. So API, you are waiting for the result of that, but that is async. So that result of it, you will store it to again UPI result handler. That is Kafka. So the result of external API will again come to the Kafka, and Kafka will store it again into DB. Yeah. Got it, guys?
So which mean you might have the different topics with Kafka.
Yes, topics
right?
are different. Topics
Yeah.
are different. Yes.
The outbound, whatever the outbound results will be pushed into different topic, which
Yes,
is
yes.
consumed by the UPA result handler.
Yes, yes, exactly. So if you are seeing here also, I mentioned that also, because in the context of this also, the Kafka will handle the different messages here. I've mentioned that somewhere here, guys. Because the topics are different, so you will see it somewhere here. Somewhere I've mentioned, I'm not sure. Yeah, so that's what I said now here. We have one producer and two consumers. In our requirement, we have two consumers, correct? So even though we have two consumers, because the topics and groups are properly separated, so no problem. So you don't have any concerns. The topic and groups are separated. Yes. Okay, hope smiling everybody, continuing. So we will now talk about the next architect here. That is the interview questions, which I've talked about that also. That is the interview question you'll get. So as I told you, all the real architecture, real problems, when it comes, you need to have the core domain understanding and the use cases of it. Okay. And yeah, so when you see the core product or problem, that core strength, you need to understand it, because with respect to even the compliance, you have to make sure as per the industry standards of that industry. That is, I'm talking about fintech industry standards, and all this also you have to do. And as I told you, Kafka gets overloaded, it retries after 5 seconds. That is also fine. We do that. So yeah, lot about we have discussed now. So we
So
have
that retry, Venki, that may be the configurable, right? Not only 5 second,
yeah.
may be able to configure, right?
Yes, we have to configure that. Okay. So now going back to now thing is we have here circuit breaker, because to automatically stop calling a broken bank, because that is no use of it, because we do a timing out and returning error also. And we also have some concept of dead letter queue. If there is a permanent failures at the Kafka after many retries failure, right? So we save the message to separate Kafka topic or DB. They store it also. If even there is a Kafka failure also, then we can inspect it, because we can figure out if there is any UPA router failure or Kafka producer issues or EPO result handler is also issue. They can still figure out this. These are the near failures. So in this system, there should be a Prometheus matrix is very important to observe health and performance. That's how many retries are happening, because they're improving the system only in this process. So which PSPs have high latencies, and what is a consumer log in Kafka, what's happening, and every microservice, that is requester, router, result handler. So what's happening there? That's also we see. So this is a core engineer or